So I'm already recording. By the way, I wanted to keep these conversations kind of fresh.
No problem.
I didn't want to, as you might notice, I didn't even talk to you too much about what I wanted to talk about or anything in particular.
Yeah.
I just thank you. By the way, first of all, thank you for doing this. You're a great sport. A lot of people have been very curious. It's like, why does Abe want to talk to me? What's going on? A lot of people have been guarded about this.
No, I'm okay.
Right. So, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I came back from Berlin about 4.5 years ago to work in London now, and I'm working in the publishing area, music publishing.
Oh, right. Excellent. We can actually talk about that a little bit during the conversation for sure.
I said work for a German company.
You work for a German company in the UK.
Yeah.
Right on. So, you 4.5 years already since you left Berlin. Wow.
Yeah.
I remember you posting that you were leaving, and that was it seemed like last year.
Yeah.
Time does fly. Yeah. I remember I was in Berlin most of the time when you were in Berlin, when you were living in Berlin. When did you move there?
2006, and someone just posted a photograph. Actually, they'd taken a photograph of like a Hof in the winter of 2006, and it was a black and white photo, and it was cold. Do you remember how cold? Were you there then?
Oh my goodness! Of course, I remember. I was there in 2006. That's actually the year that I actually took a flat there. And yeah, all those years, 2006, 2007, 2008 were really severe.
I know. I got there in January the 15th, 2006. So I arrived with all my British clothes. And it was like minus 20 out there or something. I was like, what's going on? My ears were like, I think my ears were getting frostbitten.
Yeah, a couple of years there was ice on the ground that just never went away. It was like permafrost.
Yeah.
And I remember the preferred method for kids to get around was on a sled.
Yeah. Totally.
So you just kind of instead of wheeling a child around, you'd kind of just drag him around on the sled as you did.
Summer, actually, I don't know if you remember, but that summer was really hot as well.
Right.
So we had a really cold winter there, a really baking hot summer because it was the summer of the World Cup in Germany.
All right. I remember that.
So it was like for me, it was like living in a dream world,
Right. So what actually brought you to Berlin at that time? Is that the first time you've moved out of London to live somewhere else exclusively? Or?
Yeah, it was actually, and I've been going to Berlin since 1990, 91 with Daniel Miller.
Right.
Because we used to do a lot when I was working for Mute. I used to run NovaMute with a few other people, and Daniel took us out there because we had a deal with Tresor, which meant that Mute released Tresor's compilation albums all around the world. So we had a reason to be there, and we went over for the Love Parade.
Oh my God!
In 91, I think.
That's the first Love Parade you attended, I guess.
1991 was the first one I went to, and it was on the Kudam.
I think that might have been mine as well.
No, actually, it wasn't. Was it on? Yeah, it was on the Kudam. It was on the Kudam then.
Right. That was mental, wasn't it?
Yeah, crazy. I mean, there were only like we did a truck with, we had a NovaMute and ID magazine truck.
Right.
Together. So we just played our compilation on there.
Was there a DJ or was it just music? It was just.
We didn't have a DJ.
Just playback.
We had a sound system and we had a tape.
Were you on the truck? Did you have your shirt off and were you like,
The thing is, I'm a bit older than you, so I was 31 then. I wasn't a kid.
Mm.
I just turned 60, by the way.
Right, cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm catching up. I'm in my 50s now, so I'm not that far behind.
So what happened to you then? When did you leave Berlin?
I left Berlin. I think I shut down my flat in 2011, maybe.
Okay.
But I had been there rarely that year. I didn't spend too much time in 2011 there, and maybe even part of 2010 already was more in New York. I basically retired. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah, you know, you spend what 15 years living out of a suitcase,
Yeah.
and you know, it was great. Don't get me wrong, and I have to always really, I have to be very careful about who I complain around about this stuff because people there are certain people that's their dream, right, and that's all they're doing everything to try to live this life, right.
Yeah.
And but it became a little too much in the end, especially since I wanted to start a family, and then you know there were two twins coming at that time, and I had to kind of make a call like, do the girls want to hear Daddy's on the road, you know, or do I want to be there? You know, I wasn't a spring chicken when I was having the kids. I think I was in my 40s already. So if I had kids this late in life, I thought, you know, I'm not just doing it for whatever, or it wasn't a mistake. You know, I'm this has got to be something I'm present for.
Sure.
So that, and my mom got sick as well, and then it happened that a good friend of mine called me up and asked me if I wanted to teach at this place called Dubspot, which at that moment was blowing up incredibly with all the you know, in the education space. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh wow, I guess this is the window to jump if you're going to jump at any time. So I took it, and I jumped off.
Wow. And how old are your daughters now?
They're 8 now. They're just turning 8 in a week. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's great. It's great to be home. It's great not to be on a plane. I know you've experienced this lifestyle a bit. You know how it is to have to always run for a flight. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it was. There was a point when I was working at Minus for a year. I did Minus for a year. I ran Minus for a year, and in Berlin, and that was the craziest year of my life, I think.
Really?
Yeah, that was like. Yeah, it went in a flash, and it was so much going on. It was, and the label was quite hot then as well.
Right, it was the hottest at that point.
Yeah, 2007. You know, in the middle of the minimal sort of vibe. So it was busy. It was really busy, and there were only a couple of us working there, really. You know, so it was full on. And then I did similar thing to you, really. I wanted to change my lifestyle a bit because I was clubbing and everything. And then I got into the publishing side of things. I got asked to go for an interview there, actually, whilst I was working a bit at Minus. And it seemed like a good way to stay within the music industry, but move into a slightly different area, which is a little bit more strategic, you know, planning. And you don't have to be going out clubbing all the time. And we also work with a real wide genre of music, you know.
Right.
Because, I'm reading this at the moment.
Oh, right. Get it a little bit into the center because you're kind of cut off. Oh, yeah, a little bit this way. Okay, there we go. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That's Craig Brown.
It's a book about the Beatles. It's really funny. We should read it.
Maybe I will. I'm looking for things to read. I got a lot of time on my hands for these days.
They've just reached America.
That's the part you've gotten up to.
Yeah, they've just come over to America from the UK.
How far along are you in the book?
Pardon me. There's one chapter, and all it's got is their American chart position in one day in 1964, and they have the top 5 singles in the singles chart.
That's mental. That's really mental.
And it's written quite funnily as well. It's quite amusing. You should read it.
Right on.
And so yeah, it's been. It was an interesting change of career for me, but it was a good one. You know, it was great, and I'm enjoying it.
I think you still did some clubbing. I think you didn't.
And I still go out, and you know, it's Rich's birthday this year. He's coming up to 50 in June, Richie Horton, and you know, he had a secret party in the forest in Berlin last summer.
How secret was it?
Like 250 people.
Okay, it's kind of secret.
Yeah, and in a wooded area with just a function one sound system, a bar, and a chemical toilet.
Right.
In the open air, you know, in the forest, with dancing on like mossy. It was brilliant. It was, he told me about it, so I flew in, specifically for the party to Berlin.
So where's the secret party this year?
Well, that wasn't his birthday last year, but he's not going to be doing it this year, obviously, or anything for his birthday because of the lockdown. I mean, we're in a bad situation like you guys at the moment, yeah, in the UK.
Right.
We've had, after the US, we've had the most deaths in the UK. Did you know that?
Yes, it's actually shifted now. The US is kind of weaning and going down, and you guys are in the thick of it at the moment, is it?
Well, ours is going down, but we've had a lot of people die for the size of the country,
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you look at the numbers; it's pretty high for the UK.
Yeah.
So, are you just spending all the time at home?
Well, I'm actually at my flat at the moment, but once I live in a part of London called Vauxhall, and my girlfriend lives in a part called Chiswick, and mine's like an urban sort of area, and hers is quite leafy and nice, and she's got a house and a garden, so she invited me over there to go and stay with her. So I've been over at her place all the time during lockdown. I've been hanging out at her because we don't normally live together.
Right.
So it took a pandemic to bring us together.
I often wonder, and I'm talking about this all the time, about people in their relationships, and it's either going really well or really bad right now. I figure if you were on the rocks, and then you got stuck together, this could be a bad recipe.
It's been a learning curve because we don't live together before, so it's both of us are getting used to us being around each other, and we're both working all the time as well.
So you basically just grabbed your stuff, and when it got official that you guys.
I took my computer and some clothes, like I did to Berlin. I took that and just went, and that was it, And I don't live so far away, so I can come back if I need anything else.
Right. So
yeah, go on. Sorry.
Sorry. So have you any plans to travel in for this year at all?
Well, at the moment, I'm playing it by ear, I think. I mean, the thing I'd like to be able to do is visit my mother. She's quarantined in Wales.
Right.
She's 84, so she's coming up to 84 now. So she's at risk.
Right.
She hasn't seen any of us kids since it began now. Not in, obviously not in.
Would that be possible at the moment?
Not at the moment, no. Partly because in Wales they have different rules than they have in the UK.
Okay.
In England. So Wales is still doing quarantining, social distancing, and not allowing people to visit older people. Whereas in London, it's a little bit more, and England rather, it's a little bit more relaxed. And in Berlin, I don't know if you've spoken to anybody in Berlin. It's like as though nothing's ever happened. Apparently.
Right. Yeah. It's great for Berlin. Yeah. I find it really funny that a lot of territories. Well, all these territories have their own kind of local rules for what's going on, but a lot of the territories that are really highly stricken, like New York, the restrictions are not that bad. I mean, people abide, but they're more like suggestions. I can just get in my car and drive away right now if I wanted to, and I wouldn't be in trouble for it, or I wouldn't be breaking the law somehow.
How about mixing with people? Can you go to a bar?
No, of course not. But I'm not obliged to stay home. I mean, I'm asked to stay home, but I'm not forced to stay home. I'm not controlled. Like there's no no police force dedicated to looking and asking for my papers or anything.
I can go for a walk now. I can go exercise. I could go out, and there were people in my park yesterday, and the sun was packed yesterday, trying to stay the distance, the 2 meters apart. But there's a lot of people out there, and I think the teachers over here are worried about going back to school too early. They're worried for their health, and they're worried that kids are going to be able to carry it and spread it.
So in the UK, I guess we have a similar kind of school year. The kids are off for the summer usually. Is that right? So
they would normally break up in probably July or August, I think. But I don't have kids, so.
Yeah. So what I'm asking is then the school year is probably almost over anyway. Is on the way out.
but they're still keen to get them to go back because there's a feeling. Well, they're trying to get back to normal, but I think there's a feeling that the kids are missing out by not being at school, even if it's a rotated system, you know.
I agree. I mean, I have two, and I'm lucky that I have two because they
Yeah.
keep each other company, and they
Yeah.
play with each other, and they're not
Yeah.
lonely in that sense. But you can tell that they're missing their friends, that they're missing the interaction, that maybe they're even not developing socially as much as they should right now.
Totally. And I think there's the other fear over here is that disadvantaged kids will fall further behind if they're not get back to school as soon as possible.
Yeah, same is going on here. So same because a lot of since everything has moved to the online platform, with teaching and learning, a lot of the kids that didn't even have computers, laptops, or
Right.
or ways to access this stuff, or maybe even internet.
Yeah,
It sounds crazy, but there's a good number of underprivileged kids that have this situation.
I can imagine. And over here as well, we have a lot of adults that don't have the internet. My mother's, we forced her to use it, but I'm sure there's a lot of older people who are particularly at risk who don't have computers or the internet or anything.
Or the skills to use it, even. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, and mobile phone,
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine if he had just one child and the one child has to stay at home all by itself, or that's just I would I dread that situation because having two is great for me because I don't I mean, I'm gonna sound a bit selfish here, but I don't have to be always focused on them and entertaining them. They entertain themselves. But imagine now you have one child and they're lonely, and now you have to be their friend and their parent at the same time.
Are you doing homeschooling? Do you have to do this?
Well, yeah. That's all the schools here went to kind of homeschool, internet-based scenario.
Yeah.
We were lucky. Our school was already kind of half online. They had a lot of online programs already, and so they were able to expand. But a lot of the other schools here in New York were not ready for that.
Okay.
All this stuff took people by storm, I guess. They just it's a funny change, I think, that's coming. Not funny, but it's a severe change in our society now. A lot of things have shifted that we don't even realize, I guess.
Well, from a music business perspective, it shows you that how far down the importance chain we are, in a way. I think the whole of the British government at the moment is on this. It's not got time to think about the music sector, or they're all dealing with COVID-19.
Right.
They're not thinking about how we're going to get out of it. And also, I've seen obviously different parts of the music business have been affected in different ways. Obviously, the live sector, of course, is having a terrible time, and that just fell off a cliff immediately. So I think they were the first people that got hit, and they're the last people that are going to come back.
Wow, that's
you know what I mean?
That's a way of putting it, but yeah, it's
really
pretty honest and straight.
Think of all the venues, the bands, the promoters, the roadies, the musicians, the lighting people. And they're all on those crazy contracts that they're not probably employed by another company. They're
Right.
on quite weird one-off contracts, and they have to do the work when they get it. Whereas for us as publishers, we get paid money by the performing rights societies every twice a year or something. I think it's twice a year. Should know that, actually, twice a year. And we're receiving money now from last year. So we'll get the hit this time next year.
So you're on a delayed reaction.
Yeah, but it may be the end of the year we'll start feeling it badly when the performance income goes down. So we've all been at home.
Right. Well, I guess you have a bit of time to prepare for that. It's not like a cliff dive. It's more like a rolling down a hill.
Well, for me particularly, my work, I don't know about yours, my work is sometimes I'm at home, sometimes I'm in the office, sometimes I'm out doing meetings. I'm never in the same place. And we all work remotely, and a lot of my work is done on the computer, all phone calls.
So you've been managing to stay busy, I guess, with work.
Yeah, it's been really busy, really, really busy. We've been one of our boss, Ben. I work for a company called Buddha Music, and Benjamin Buddha is the family. It's a family-owned music publishing company, and Benny's was very initially as soon as it started, he said, right, we've got to think about the future. We've got to think about trying to plug the gap that's going to be in our income in the future. We need all of our writers to all be connected with each other and to all be writing new songs via Zoom, or they're using a thing called Audio Mover. Do you know that?
No, I haven't heard of it. Tell me about it.
Helps with latency apparently and delay.
Audio Mover is an app that
I think it's a plugin maybe, which
it's a
allows you
plugin that works together with Zoom.
I think maybe it does, yeah, or possibly with Logic.
Oh, so but it's not a platform.
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's an actual. It helps you talk to everybody or communicate or write with people in real time without any delay, which we've got today. Actually, I can see it now while I'm talking to you. So we had 1 week, for example, with one of our German artists who wanted new songs for his new project, and we had a lot of our writers all writing in different, in their rooms. And at one session, for example, we had a writer in Australia, a writer in Germany, and a writer in the States, all working on the same song at the same time in real time.
Wow. Do they record these sessions?
Yeah. So, and also the guy whose project it was, he's like a DJ producer type. He was overseeing all of the sessions by dropping in and out. I like that. I don't like that. Can you move that? Can you change that? And we ended up after a week with 27 songs.
That's amazing. That's great. Actually, I'm very happy about that, because it feels as if at least certain parts of or sectors can move forward somehow. Yes. And even if it's not perfect right now, it's facilitating a lot of technological developments, and it's going to bring this space. It's just it's on steroids now. The whole online space.
Thing is, we could have been doing this before. Really, it was just that people felt like they all wanted to be in the same room together writing. To get the personal aspect. Some writers like it more than others, but now we've done it. Like the genie's out the bottle, really. And in the future, why should anybody fly around to another country to write songs with them? It's not necessary, really. It's like we're doing now.
Right. I mean, we haven't had a conversation in a while, so we're doing it now.
Yeah, and it's and of course some of these songs are coming out quite quickly as well, because there's a particular thing that people are thinking that they want to use up tempo, like happy club tracks, that people want to hear stuff that's like a lot of melody, pianos, vocal, that sort of up club music that people want to. They want to be made to feel good about themselves at the moment. They don't want dreary sort of, dreary songs. They want something that's going to really get them going. So we're having, and that goes for the sync industry as well. So we're having a lot of requests for those type of uplifting type tracks as well. Because write club music as well,
When I hear you talking about these things, I know about all of them because I've been in this for a while as well. You talk about the sync industry, and you talk about writers getting together, and I try to keep abreast of what's going on. But I think that most artists that we know have no idea about the publishing world, even though it's probably the most impactful thing they on their career at the moment.
Well, I think some do. The clever ones do, and they realize that it could be part of their income. I would say for electronic music, for the type of music that you and I are like as well, I guess if you look at the Spotify figures, they're not so large for electronic acts, underground electronic acts, and most of their income was coming via their live music.
Right.
So, or DJ gigs, So I'm specifically, I think, talking about the sort of pop world or pop club world or
Right,
You know,
understood. But it could be the electronic world or the club world. I find, I'm teaching music production these days, and I find that the one thing that most people aren't even aware that they should be informed about is,
well,
how publishing works or what it's all about. Even if you ask,
well,
if any of the students that come to my school, I always do this to them. I ask them what they know about publishing, and they know zero, like a big fat zero. They're
right.
not even a member of a publishing rights society or
Yeah.
anything of that, or even feel that that's important.
No, that's true. Because it's not part of the dream. It's a bit boring. Seem a bit boring, maybe.
So if you were a budding artist not in, let's say, not in electronic music, or you wrote some electronic music, but you also wrote some songs, and you were a singer, what would you do to kind of structure yourself in the publishing world?
Well, I think generally, I think if you're an artist and writing some music and maybe writing with you need to put your team around you, don't you? You need your lawyer, your booking agent, your publisher, your label, and your manager.
That's a big team.
Yeah, but if you're going to do it properly, and
Right.
you're really going places.
But let's say you're just starting out and you don't have a lawyer, you don't have a manager, and you don't have.
Well,
What would be the first step?
you should probably get registered at your local collection society,
And
like
then
BMS in the UK or Gamer in Germany or ASCAP or BMI in the States.
is Harry Fox still around?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yeah.
And then after that, what would you do?
Um,
Let's say you have some mild success now. Now you have something that actually starts to see some money coming in as far as like streams and so on.
well, over in the UK, we have the majors, we publishing side. We're just talking about publishing. We have
Right.
Warner Chappell, Sony ATV, Universal. Then we have some big indies like Cobalts, Concord, people like this, BMG, quite big as well over here. And then you have another level below that, which part, I would say Buddha's part of, which are independents again, but they're all quite different levels of how long they've been around, large or small. I mean, there's only 3 of us in the UK. And we're quite easy to get to, if you want to have a chat about publishing or you want to see whether it's even worth you doing a publishing deal. I mean, I'm doing A&R, so people are coming to see me all the time or to want to talk about it, or they usually have an idea about what it's about, before coming in, but there are a few that don't, and some of them, sometimes management don't even know what it's about coming from our scene as well. They don't know anything about it.
So when do you think an artist would be ready to sit down with you? When is it that you'd like to see some?
I would like them to, personally, on the electronic side of things, I would love them to be maybe obviously making their own music, up for maybe doing some work for synchronization, maybe doing some writing for advertisements or film, open to write with other people, maybe on their own project or for these other people's projects as well. Maybe they have a parallel artist and writing career. So by night they're club DJs, by the daytime they're doing music with other people for other genres. That's I think the most difficult thing is actually getting them to collaborate with other people.
So are you in charge of like getting them together and like making these introductions and saying, well, this person might work well with that person. Let's see how that goes.
We have in Germany, because we're a lot bigger over there, we have our A&R department is 8 people, just A&R. So it's a big setup in Germany. We're a really big independent company in Germany. We're the biggest after the majors.
Wow.
And we work in a lot of old areas like Schlager, hip hop, pop.
Schlager to hip hop. You said it all.
We do everything from really wide, because our writers have different, like I said about earlier on, that's why I mentioned the Beatles, because I grew up with the Beatles. I wasn't just into electronic music.
Right.
We both of us like a lot of different music, and that's what I like about it, actually, is the fact that it's quite varied. So for somebody starting, find out a little bit about publishing, find out if you think, and then go and talk to somebody about it, and see if I just started working with somebody who's called Rebecca, who's a female DJ, and she's like, oh my God, I didn't know all this existed, or you could do all this, and the next thing I did was I put her in a session. She's a female producer, has a studio in Berlin. She's from the UK. I put in touch with an Icelandic singer who's based in Madrid, and they're working together now.
Excellent.
I don't know what they're working on, but
right.
They can either give them briefs and say, hey, why don't you write a song for blah blah if they're looking for a song, or why don't you write for then you've got an opportunity when you've got 2 or 3 different people in the room of which project you write for as well.
So let's say they have a tune ready. Do they come back at you and they're like, here, Seth, look what we've done?
Well, there's 2 ways of doing it, really. You can create the song from scratch, or say you're a great top liner and you're great with melodies and lyrics, and I've got some backing tracks, and they sound a bit something that maybe we can. I'm got a single coming out on Defected, but I need a vocal on my backing track. I get it to you. You do your vocal on the top. You send it back to me. I mix it, and it comes out on Defected with your top line, and you get a cut of the publishing on it.
Right, and you're in charge of coordinating all that. That's basically your job?
Yeah, the publishers, that's something that we can do a lot. Sometimes the management help, the lawyers can help, the publishers can help, the labels can help do that as well, of course, because they have artists looking for songs sometimes, or they want their artists to write with other people. Right. For their own project, so it's a whole variety of ways. It's very collaborative. It's really collaborative. I love that about it.
Yeah, I think you're really great at this. And the reason I say this is because, well, you weren't working exactly in publishing before, but I think, and I've never said this to you, but I think you're one of the reasons that my career went so well in the early 2000s. I think you kind of, you started working with me at that time, and you just managed to get me all these amazing remixes that, I did my part as well by actually creating the remixes, but you really you really were instrumental in setting me up for success, really.
Oh, that's interesting. Great, brilliant.
There was I think you did the Moby one, the Chemical Brothers. Yeah. What else did I maybe? It escapes me. The first one we did. He was big.
Motor.
What's that?
Motor
as well. That's right. Yeah. That one as well. But there was the first one. Oh, I can't remember now. I'm sort of feeling on the spot right now. But there were at least 4 or 5 pretty. I had a slew of remixes, and everywhere I would go, I'd be like, "Oh my God, all these remixes! Where are they coming from?" That would actually be one of the biggest questions I would get in interviews. Like, how are you getting all these remixes of this caliber? And there was one man that that really was responsible for it, and that was you. So
right, I didn't. Yeah, well, it's a long time ago now, but and of course I was really busy then as well, because I was working at Mute. So luckily, I think I've had label background, and now I'm getting some publishing background as well. Because I'm learning all the time with publishing. It's quite complex.
It is and that's the thing that I think that you could get a PhD in publishing, I guess.
Well, yeah, and it's changing all the time,
It is changing, and there's so much. There's mechanicals. There's there's like terrestrial radio. There's like XM radio. There's like streaming. There's like all sorts of aspects, and every territory has their own kind of ways of taking care of and handling that performance stuff. It's super hard to keep track of. I guess that's why we need you.
I'm more on the creative side as well, because we have people working at Butter in Germany who solely do registration, statements, royalties. They're so important, that part of our setup. And figures people, they're far more on the figures than I am. And we also have a legal department within the company in Germany as well.
So let's change gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you about food.
Okay.
What are you eating these days?
Well, I cut a lot out, actually. I stopped smoking 10 years ago.
Awesome. Excellent.
Yeah. So in July, it'll be 10 years without smoking. And then I stopped eating meat and wheat.
Have you gone all vegan or just meat?
No, just vegetarian, and I eat fish, actually. I do eat fish. I still drink alcohol, but
Well, okay.
no, I'm not as, because I'm not going out so much, I guess. I'm not clubbing as much. It's not quite as like it was, you know. I used to get through like 2 packets of cigarettes in a night in clubbing, you know, and
Wow.
it was ridiculous, really. You'd be out from 10 till whenever. You know what Berlin's like. And I thought I'd better try and look after myself a little bit. So I've been exercising a little bit as well. I love to swim, and I'm really missing swimming, actually.
How are you getting exercise these days?
I'm jogging.
Jogging, right.
Yeah, I go for a jog. There's a park near where I live, and do some cycling as well.
Yeah, I got to get myself into an exercise program. I must admit, I've been eating a lot better in the last, especially since the whole pandemic started. I'm definitely not eating out as much as I used to.
No,
I was eating more irregularly, eating out and at different times, and now I'm eating always at the same time, and I'm quite into cooking now, which is
Yeah, I know. We started cooking quite a lot. We cook almost every day, and we make sure we buy the right stuff, you know. And so, yeah, I think the interesting thing will be how much of what happens to us now we bring outside with us, you know, when it's all over.
right. So I think they say that like if you do something repetitively for a month, it becomes a habit.
Okay.
So I think we've got some new habits coming.
Yeah.
For people.
Well, maybe some of these will be good, you know.
Yeah, I can't imagine easily going back into the eating out sort of lifestyle.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I was out quite on the go. I was always around and not at home. So I guess that really kind of made it so that I'd have to, jump into a restaurant to have something to eat or whatever. But I've gotten into such a rhythm with cooking and enjoying it more than I ever thought I would. I guess I never even gave it a chance, really. I mean, I did cook because I had to, but it was always a chore, and I was always just more dependent on restaurants to feed me.
Yeah, totally. Me too. You know, the stuff I'd have in the fridge would be like, I never cooked at all.
So do you have a workout regimen? Is there a...
Not really. No, I once I started changing my diet, I lost a lot of weight, and I cut down on the alcohol and like not eating meat or bread or wheat stuff. That really takes your weight down.
Was it easy to do the change?
Yeah, was actually. I sort of I did them all at the same time, you know.
You just wake up one day and go, okay, this is it.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a condition. It's called diverticulitis, which is something to do with your large intestine. And I was getting an attack every once or 2 years, you know. And my father died a couple of Decembers ago, like 3 Decembers ago, and I got sick, which was partly stress induced as well, I think. And I thought, well, maybe I should change what I'm eating to try and give my gut a better chance. So I did that. So that's partly why I cut out meat, particularly, you know.
Yeah, I read a lot about your gut and microbiome and all that, and how it really kind of runs your life somehow.
Yeah, I think you've got to really look after it. And, you know, I've been eating, you know, I was born in 1960, so I was eating, God knows what I've been eating over the last, you know, mixture of, you know, God knows what. I mean, I'm not a big burger fan or anything, but, you know, we had a variety of food. But I grew up in the UK, you know, and the diet in the UK has never been that amazing, especially, although I grew up in the countryside, so that probably helped. But yeah, I'm doing my best. And as I got 60 as well, reached 60, you know, I'm doing what I can, really. You've got to try a bit harder, I think, when you get older. Otherwise, you'll just...
Right. It's about keeping what you have, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be, you know, you'll be fucked, basically.
I have to say, you do look fantastic.
That's very nice of you. Thank you very much. So do you.
Your skin is radiating. You look great. You look very healthy, actually.
It's like 27 degrees today.
Do you feel like running outside?
Well, yeah, I've got to wait for a package to turn up. I've been here all day. It's driving me crazy.
Right. Well, I'm really happy that you've sat down with us or with me to talk about this stuff, and I'm glad that you didn't ask too many questions about what this was all about, and just to kind of let you know, I mean, it's basically I wanted to have conversations with old friends that were kind of related to the industry or the music that we were around, been around all our lives. And I just wanted to kind of like maybe catch up. Maybe it's a thing about getting older as well. Just to kind of just have like a.
Thank you. That's really nice. And what have you been up to? What are you working on musically?
Well, I'm teaching quite a lot now. My school has, we are a physical school, meaning we have classrooms and stuff of that sort. But when all this pandemic stuff went down, we were forced to move everything online. Now we were lucky because we were already doing some online work. We maybe about 15 to 20% of our classes had been online at that point. Yeah. So, and I had been one of the maybe 2 or 3 instructors at the school that were teaching online already. Right. So we were sort of ready to go because we had gotten all the kinks out of the system. So we immediately trained all our teachers, all the rest of the teachers to get with it. We, all the instructors that had been doing it up until then, all got together and kind of gave everybody a heads up on what to do, how to do it, how to go about it. Laid out some new rules and new ways to deal with the students, and it's been an amazing success. I've not experienced any loss of work or in the sense that I'm very busy these days.
And you working with international students as well?
We have students all over the world.
Yeah.
So our school was based in New York. Right now we were in the middle of launching a school in Berlin as well.
Oh, great.
So, but that is still happening somehow. And actually, we since Berlin is so ready to go, we're also kind of on that page with ready to go-ness there. So
and you're teaching like Logic or what are you using?
So we teach Logic at school. We teach Ableton. We teach mixing and mastering, songwriting, vocal production. I think that's all our programs. There might be a program that escapes me now, but those are the main programs that we.
Have you heard of a genre called grime?
Of course.
So it's big in London, yeah.
Yeah.
So the kids are, I don't know, 13 up, sort of doing it, and they're all using Fruity Loops.
Right. Well, they would call it FL now, right?
Yeah.
FL Studios.
Yeah,
that's a big one. I get it. I get that. So I teach mixing and mastering at the school, and I get a lot of young people coming in with FL, which is Fruity Loops FL. But they went to FL Studios because I guess they wanted a more official sounding name. So they come in with that, and that's actually a fantastic program of software to make music with. I mean, my preferred one, but I think it's always been big in the hip hop world, and I learned so much from these youngsters about what's going on with music, and that's actually what keeps me kind of in the know of what's going on out there. It's hard as you get older if you stop clubbing and you start. You don't want to be the old guy at the club. It's an old Chris Rock line, but you just and then you just run out of like patience for going out all the time and keeping up with what's happening. But as a teacher, I'm coming. These kids are coming to me, and I'm having to like adapt to what they're.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I weirdly enough, I've never created any electronic music in my life, and I've never used a program. I've done DJing, but I've never used a program. If I was going to start for just for my own enjoyment, at home, what would you recommend would be a good one for me to start with?
It depends on your budget, because if you wanted to go cheap, you can get something. Well, there's a lot of factors. There's budget, so you can do GarageBand if you're using a Mac. I don't know if that's the case, but or you could or you can get something like FL, which I don't think is as expensive as something like Ableton. Is the suite is rather on the expensive side. I mean, they do offer a discount to students, but I think there's like it's about $700 or $800 for the program, which is not really cheap if you think about it. But has become sort of the standard for collaboration across the industry. So most people are looking to learn Ableton just because it is the standard. So if that's the idea that maybe you want to get into to become a publishing a writer instead of just a coordinator, that maybe Ableton for collaborative reasons might be the way to go. Yeah. I mean, Logic is still a big deal, and it's about $200, I think. So it's a lot more affordable than Ableton is. But just for the collaboration, it's becoming the one, which Logic used to be, say, 7 years ago. And
do your students collaborate with each other across the world as well?
Well, yes, they end up doing that. What's really fun now is that, these classes now, these online classes, they're very populated. So what I mean by populated is it's maybe 6 or 8 students in a class, and that's about as much as you can really handle without it getting to be something too diminishing returns after a while when you have more than 6 or 8 students. But they start looking forward to getting into these virtual classrooms, and then without me sort of pushing it or trying to get them together too much, I slowly start realizing that off on the side they start to pair off or become friends and become collaborators together just on their own. I guess everybody's looking for some way of making new contact with people, and there isn't much but that these days. Yeah. So lots of that going on. So
is there anything you think I should be listening to that you could send me as a publisher?
I'll put together a list for you. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and they come in all different levels of experience and accomplishment as well. You have very accomplished people coming in to finally just because they don't want to depend on the producer all the time. They want to be able to write for themselves.
And does publishing ever come up much? Not really then.
I bring up the publishing all the time just because I know how important it is. But I know how little people know about it. And even when I try to stress it, people kind of oh, okay, and they go on to thinking about other things. What I think is very sad is because if somebody had a runaway hit, a runaway success, and they're not structured prior to having that, they're just playing catch up at that point to set up everything correctly. If they're or at least understand what the structure could be and what they need to be doing for that.
They registered the song. They just registered the song. That's a great start.
Yeah. How many don't? I think more than the ones that do.
Yeah.
I mean, de facto registration, I guess, happens when you release it somehow. No, I mean, you could tell me about that.
There's a British group that had some success last year. I think they had 2 top 10 records, and they're basing their deal that they want to sign on the fact that they've had these records, and that needs to be all collected, that money. So that's still sitting there.
How long does this stay in the pot?
I don't know. A year? I think in Germany it's a year, I think.
And what happens then? Then it goes into just the general fund?
Black box, I think, doesn't it? And then it's distributed on a level of whoever's the most deserving causes.
That's the thing. I mean, all these things nobody even talks about. And that's why I think something like your knowledge base would be amazing. You want a job as a teacher?
Well, I'm learning all the time, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm saying these things, is that right? I'm not exactly 100% sure myself about everything.
But I think everybody's in the same boat somehow. Unless when you're in publishing, you're, as you said earlier, you alluded to the fact that you're doing this sort of part of the work, and there are other people that do accounting, and other people that hunt things down, and other people that do some legal contracts or whatever. Unless you're in that particular aspect, it's so vast and it's so.
Yeah, I would say if it's a small company and you can have 1-2 person publishing companies that maybe they concentrate on the registration and the collection, and they maybe don't offer a creative service as well. There are companies that just offer that type of publishing company, and maybe you don't want people to be chasing around trying to get you syncs, and you just want somebody to register your music, collect the money, and take a small percentage for the administrative work, and don't want any creative work as well. But we're a sort of publishing company that offers the whole range of for creative work and collection and sync, and songwriting camps, and we do a bit of everything. International, of course, because we have an office in London, Berlin, Paris, and LA as well, and Poland actually. And then every other territory, we work with independent publishers in each of those territories, like Israel, Japan, South Africa, Turkey, Russia, India, Middle East. We got publishers, we got partners everywhere.
China?
Yeah, we go through Fuji Pacific, who look after China. Well, they're based in Hong Kong, of course, Japan, and South Korea for us. Same company looks after this.
So would I be right to assume that if any sector of our music industry is going to grow, it would be the publishing sector?
Well, actually, we don't. If you look at streaming figures, the income for publishers is a lot less than the income for labels.
Okay.
Publishing is around and it's quite solid. We're doing well in Germany.
But what did you say that streaming, that there are other revenue streams than just streaming, performance and
Yes, of course. We have performance. We have performance like radio or live. We have mechanicals. We have the streaming side of things as well. Obviously, physicals not as quite what it was.
Right.
But for us, and also there's a slight difference between, we work with artists who write solely for their own projects, and we work with writer-producers, and we work with top-liners. So the writer-producers sometimes go in and help the artist write a song. We very rarely have an artist who's a producer as well. But for us, the best thing for us is to have writers and producers and maybe top-liners, because an artist can only release X number of songs in 3 years, the term of the contract. If you're an artist, you're only going to do what? Maybe 2 albums in 3 years, if you're lucky. What's that, 25 songs, if you're lucky? Whereas if you're a writer-producer, you could be working on 2 projects a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and getting them out there. So you could have like, 50 cuts a year if you're successful.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a different scale.
I'm getting to understand what you mean now. See, this is all the stuff that I need to constantly be kind of opening my eyes to and awakening to.
I think as a writer-producer, and these are the people that you're going to be seeing more of, I guess, they're writer-producers, whether they're writing and producing for their own project. I think they have to be really open for film, advertising, co-writing. Don't be like, this is my thing. You can have your thing, but be prepared to collaborate with other people. And you know what it's like in the electronic scene. People don't want to give away their sounds, which is fine. Keep the sounds for yourself, but stay open. And as well in the electronic side of things, people have this tunnel vision that it's electronic and only electronic. They don't really think about, and we've heard it. Remember the first time you heard it, like a Timbaland record, It's like, fuck, what's that? Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Electronic. That was electronic, wasn't it? It's electronic sort of hip hop, really.
Right.
That he was, but it was different, It was, and of course, if you listen to the charts, there's loads of it. There was that big EDM explosion. I mean, electronic and pop music were the same thing for about 4 years, weren't they?
Right. Do you think that's sort of that ship has sailed now with the EDM and the pop being?
I think it'll come up in other forms and other guises. I mean, as a the big genre, I don't know.
What is the big genre right now?
The guys are still around. David Guetta's still making records.
Right. But what would you say the big genre is for 2021?
Well, I'm thinking that maybe British grime might get a foothold in the States with a couple of artists that I hear about. It might cross over. Some of them are not singing in stupid British accents where you won't be able to understand and singing about shit that people in America won't get.
Right.
So that could happen. It might happen. There was this big thing about the Spanish language world taking off. We work with a Spanish language artist called Alvaro Soler, which you may not have heard of, but he's big in Italy, Spain, France, Germany, and South America. One of his songs has got 200 million streams.
Wow, that's a lot of streams.
One song.
Wow.
Singing in Spanish.
Right, and I guess that would be a pretty big, sizable market in the U.S. for that as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that speak Spanish here and that listen to Spanish music here.
Totally. So, that didn't seem to quite happen in maybe, after Despacito. We all thought it was going to be huge, but it didn't happen. But, that's not going to go away. That market is still there, and it's a big market. And the other thing people are looking at the moment is Africa.
Right.
A lot of music coming out of Africa.
So who are your favorite artists right now? But you listen to just for fun. It doesn't have to be somebody current.
I really love Charlie XCX. You know her? Have you heard her new record?
No.
She's got a new album. It's produced by a guy called A.G. Cook, British guy. She's living in LA now. She wrote it under lockdown. She did the whole album.
Hold on, let me write this down. I just want to check out. If you're recommending it, I'm gonna.
I think it's fucking brilliant, especially when you read the lyrics as well. So she did all the lyrics and the melodies, and the production guys worked around her. So they started it. She set herself 4 or 5 weeks to write and release it. She's on Atlantic, and it came out last Friday.
Wow.
The XCX. It's called. It's brilliant. It's 11 songs. Some of it is fucking brutal. Really.
Brutal in what sense?
Really, yeah, and musically, really tough. It's like hard edge pop music. And the subject matters about being locked down and mental health and everything. She writes all her own, and she's done a lot of co-writing. She's written for Taylor Swift and Camila Cabello and stuff as well.
Yeah, I've heard her name.
Yeah, this is her solo project. She's really, quite. She doesn't stop working. She really works hard, and she did it all in her house and online. The whole album.
Wow, in the last few weeks, I guess.
Yeah, and they got it out as soon as it was completed.
Oh, that's great. That's
cool. The album is called How I'm Feeling Now.
Thanks for that.
There's one called Pink Diamond on it, which I was having this discussion with my friend. He thinks it's about crystal meth.
And what do you think?
Is it? And if you're listening to the lyrics, I was looking at the lyrics, I was like, maybe it is. But it's a really interesting album. Some of the sounds, as a producer, I think you will be really interested in the sounds that they're using, because they're quite, I'd say they're quite cutting edge, those guys. There's another guy called BJ, I think, who she's done it with as well. But there's only 11 songs, and they're all quite short. You should have a flick through, see what you think.
I will. I'm interested in new music, but it's hard to figure out what the new music is, sitting where I am.
I'm working with a Norwegian singer who I really like, of course, because I signed her. She's called Aurora. So check her out. She's a proper artist. She writes or co-writes everything herself. It's coming straight from her. It's totally unfiltered. It's her thing. So there's some albums up on there that on Spotify. See if you like her. She does all sorts of things. She was recently in Frozen 2.
Oh,
You know the
really?
sound?
What was she?
She's the voice of the North. It's like a dreamy sort of Icelandic, but she's from Norway.
Right. I'll let my daughters know.
She's on that huge song. Your daughters probably know it.
Yeah, they would. They would. They're all about that.
But she's really good in her own right, Aurora. She writes her own stuff.
And when you say you signed her, what does that actually mean?
She's signed to Buddha as a writer for publishing. So I signed her when she was 16, 17.
Wow.
And she's 23 now, 22.
So all the publishing, and I guess you guys are working with her in the sort of creatively setting up situations for her to work with other people.
She does it herself now. The label do it as well. Her manager help as well. So we're all setting up situations for her and pitching her music for sync, for advertisements or films, stuff like this. You know, she just released a song last Friday as well.
Are there any artists that are resistant to like signing with some other publisher like this? Are there any artists that feel like?
Yeah, there's some people that don't see the value in it.
Because I find from time to time I just find some paranoid people.
Yeah, paranoid people as well, and I think Gamer went through us. Do you remember there's a lot of Gamer bashing going on about 10 years ago as well in Germany.
Yeah,
everybody hated Gamer.
Right, which I'm a member of, by the way.
Yeah,
full disclosure.
Well, you still remember it, dude? Oh, great.
Yeah, well, I came into GEMA in the 90s when they still allowed foreigners to become members of GEMA.
Yeah.
And when they changed the law, I was grandfathered in, so I'm still a member of GEMA, which is great for me, if you could imagine.
Who is your publisher?
I have these guys in Hamburg. These guys, Superstition.
Superstition, okay. Right.
Yeah.
They're a publishing company.
What's that?
They're a publishing company.
They do my publishing. They also run my labels.
Oh, great! Oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
So it's just like a one-stop shop for
me.
I don't want any other Alphas work.
Do you know who they work with for publishing? Are they doing it themselves, or are they working with another company?
I believe they do it themselves.
Okay, great.
They do it themselves. Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with other publishers in the past, and I still have some business with Warner Chappell somehow.
Okay.
From some contract that goes back maybe 20 years already, but the guys in Hamburg, they're doing a bang up job actually, which is great because it's funny because from the publishing side of things, I'm always looking at every quarter. I'm looking at a royalty statement, and I'm getting some money. I mean, it's nothing to like buy a new car with or anything, but it's substantial money.
And it's steady, yeah.
And it's every quarter, yeah. Which reminds me, I didn't fill out an invoice for this last quarter that passed.
No, surely you can tell your students that, look.
I do. But it's almost like, it goes on deaf ears sometimes. Yeah. I guess they don't hear enough of this out there. They hear other things. And they hear outdated information about the music business.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're quite a modern, we've got a thing where we've got an app for our writers in Germany only, but they can go in there and look at all the statements. They can see where their records are being played. They can see what songs are doing good, that they've got registered. They can look at a sort of snapshot in time of how they're doing with their publishing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a Buddha app. We only launched it last year, but we have to do those things, because the other publishers are doing it as well.
That's what I'm saying. I was leading you into an answer that you didn't give me, but I believe that the publishing side of things has so much room to grow and to at least to structure themselves in a more modern way, so that it's streamlined to kind of service the artist more and to have a very kind of visible revenue stream for artists, or at least a path to it.
Publishing has always had a good revenue stream, I think, but they were always very quiet about it. and now, publishers, the sync world is obviously very competitive, but
right.
You could well out of sync, and some of our writers do really well, publishing wise, especially the ones that are having hits and airplay. If you have an airplay hit in Germany, you can get a good whack of money out of that, you know, because you can imagine the number of radio stations in Germany, because it's federal,
right?
And if you have a hit that crosses on all of them, then you can be doing really well with a radio hit.
Would you say the publishers are the new labels somehow?
Well, in terms of developing talent, we can be.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at. Just
for talent, because we're getting in quite early a lot of times, and you know, artists sometimes we get, you know, like I said with Aurora, for example, she didn't have a label or a booking agent when we signed her. She was before she had any of that set up.
Right. So, what would you say is left for the labels these days?
Well, the labels are looking at what the figures are like, and then they all go for the same thing, don't they? They all, if somebody's doing well, then they all bid for it. You have to have the reach, and you have to have built something up already before the labels will get involved.
Right, but owning a label, even starting a label these days, what's the appeal? How do you continue to make money? I mean, you can't be streaming. I mean, it must be something like a 360 deal or something for your artists where you get a piece of their performances, but now even that's kind of gone.
I think maybe it depends what level of label you're at. You know, maybe if you want to do a label deal, you can go with Orchard or Believe and do like a single EP thing or something. If you're a pop artist, or Zebralution or something like that. I mean, you can get your music out there quite easily if you're an artist. And that's more of a label services thing, rather, you know, they'll just do a little bit of promo for you, get your record out, and get your music up on all the platforms. But if you want to go with a major, you're talking about a major or a big indie, you're going to have a team around you already.
Right. Well, I'm actually just thinking about the labels in all forms, from very small operations to the majors. And just thinking what, you know, I mean, you remember the times when the money was just carried on wheelbarrows. It was all big limos and cigars. And you remember those days.
Well, I don't think I was in that. But
pre-Napster, I guess, days when there was a lot more money to go around in the music industry. And after Napster, things have eroded to a point where, and I wonder now, like what it is that would, you know, that would mean to have a label. Like I know when I started my labels in the 90s, I actually started making money quickly. I mean, and compared to now, I mean, it was real money. You know, it wasn't a few cents here for some streams or you know, $100 for a whole album or something like that. It was some serious okay money that would come from every release, and I would have at least enough to fund a part of my lifestyle with it. And it was a label that I started from scratch.
I mean, for most labels, all their income is from streaming. You know, that's the big growth area still, I would say, for most labels in most countries around the world. Streaming is basically propping up the whole of the label, which thank God for streaming, really. Otherwise, we'd have been really fucked. But, you know, there was a point in 2007 at Minus when we had the physical. We were doing vinyl and some CDs and streaming digital through Beatport. They were both buoyant, you know. And I think maybe in 2008, 2009, because I wasn't working then really, the vinyl thing just collapsed overnight, and people was where we could sell of a good selling +8 thing. We would maybe sell 8,000 or 9,000 of a 12-inch then. Which was still less than before, actually, when I was at Mute. You know, we could sell like 30,000 of a T. Ramschmer 12-inch, you know? Which is fucking crazy if you think about it.
That is crazy.
30,000 of a CDJ 12-inch, you know, banging, hard Speedy J record. It's like crazy. And then I think the vinyl dropped, and there wasn't an uplift in streaming that took up the slack, you know.
Now, when you talk about streaming, you're including downloads and streaming in that? Or
well, back in those days, I'm talking about downloads. I'm talking about Beatport.
Okay.
Not downloads. I mean, there's no downloads at all these days, I don't think.
Yeah, it's funny, how that
Um,
has completely changed everything again.
yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking about. I've totally forgot about. I was on to streaming, but that really, I've forgotten all about bloody downloads. I mean, I don't download anything these days. Do you?
Well, I think DJs that play out might still download just to have
Yeah, of course, yeah.
tracks to like play out but that's right now, at least at the moment, we that's not happening. So it's a lot of DJs are not downloading anything right now. I think Beatport must be really feeling it at the moment
How are,
because,
what are DJs playing then, and how are they accessing the music?
well, they're not playing
Oh yeah, sorry,
because
sorry, yeah.
so that's the point. That's they're there's always, like, if you're a working DJ, you always have this kind of like, weekends coming, I need some new tunes to like
Yeah,
to keep
yeah.
fresh. And so, I mean, a lot of the bigger DJs have the stuff sent to them, and they don't have a need to like be downloaded. But a lot of people that are up and coming or trying to like make it, especially the lower tiers, they were depending on what they could find on Beatport or services of the sort to like.
I mean, it's another way of arguing for publishing, really, to be diversified, so you're not got all your eggs in the gigging basket.
Yeah, it's a ginormous wake up call, hasn't it been? It's
Mm.
I get a little choked up when I think about it because I so many friends at the moment are feeling it, are
Yeah,
really going
really.
through it right now because
Yeah,
they got the rug pulled from under them, like. Phew.
yeah.
Like
And they
a
don't
lot of
see-
people in this world did, but gigging artists, they just, as you said, they're the first ones to go and the last ones to come back. Maybe it's going to be
and they don't have savings or anything either.
a lot of people live day to day, even if they were having big paychecks or big gigs that were paying them. They were living a lavish lifestyle sometimes or whatever. Some of them were smart, I'm sure, but regardless, it just stops cold, and there's
Yeah.
no chance of working from home. You could try to do a live stream from home, but none of that's going to pay you, and it's a little bit it's very I'm very worried about a lot of my friends and
Mm.
that have been doing this for a long time and have no other way to no other sector to jump into.
Yeah.
So it was hard enough for me to jump off when I
Yeah.
kind of did it purposefully and I had a plan, go to become a teacher, and that was a learning curve in itself. It was hard enough for me to get that to happen, and it was even traumatic in the sense that you missed the road, you missed believe it or not, you missed the adulation, you missed
Yeah.
the contact with the public and all that. But I got through it. But what are you supposed to do when that's all and you're the best at the world maybe of that, but you can't do that.
And you've got kids or something.
And you've got kids, and you've got other bills, and you've got a car payment to make, and maybe a mortgage. I don't know anything. Life. What are you supposed to do? Do you become a plumber? Do you how do you go back to school? It's a severe situation for a lot, and maybe we could say that in a given amount of time things will somehow get back going again, but.
Yeah.
How long can we survive like this?
We're lucky. You and I are quite lucky.
We
In
are.
this.
We are. Definitely are.
I've been working in the music industry. I went to university in London. I studied psychology, and then I came out and worked in a record shop. And that was it. That was the beginning of the working in the music industry.
You studied psychology, is that right?
Yeah. So and then I worked in a record shop. And that was the beginning, and then I've been in the music industry some form or other ever since. And I can't believe I'm still here, really, somehow.
Right. Well, you're good. You're good at what you do.
Well, you get buffeted though. You know what it's like.
I know. It's feast or famine.
I had a call with a lawyer yesterday. I was thinking that was terrible, really badly. And I there was one particular. I won't say who it is. When I was working at Buddha. There was one American DJ that was living in Berlin at the time, and he was introduced to us. He'd been signed to another publishing company that we were working with, so he wasn't working directly with us. And I had a phone call with him one morning, and I don't know what had happened. He must have had fucking terrible weekend or something. And it was honestly, I mean, I guess I was in my early 50s. And it quite honestly was the worst telephone conversation of my whole career. I was like, wow, that was really bad. How did it get from being, hello, how are you, to like 3 minutes later, the guy's threatening to kill me, like, you know, or something. And I'm like, wow. And I was quite, it really woke me up a bit, actually, about you can't really take any of it for granted. And sometimes things come along and people are quite, I think what happened as well in the electronic thing, you know, everybody wanted to be a DJ at one point, and there was a lot of squeezing going on, and I think a lot of people felt pressured, and there was a lot of competition and a lot of cutthroat behavior over gigs and things like this, you know, and I think it got very competitive and a bit nasty. I talked to some people who are like management or booking agents. They said the scene got a bit nasty the last 4 or 5 years.
I've been hearing that quite a lot. I just sat down with Adam X the other night to have a conversation like we're having, and he was telling me that that's one thing that a lot of people were complaining about. So he feels, so we were talking about this being a kind of reset button, what's going on now, that maybe things will kind of reorganize somehow, and some of that will kind of go away, maybe, hopefully. But I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think I witnessed it a couple of times, and it wasn't pleasant, you know.
But getting to that,
there was a lot of money flying around as well for some people.
Getting to that whole wanting to be a DJ thing, I just wanted to make sure that I brought this up before we finished. And I had an album release party once, and I had this very, very, very special DJ come in to do a glam set.
Oh, that's so funny. Susanna,
I had never known this aspect or this sort of facet of your life. I did not know that you really had you're a superhero in that sense. You are my favorite glam DJ.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun, and Susanna played as well. Do you remember?
Right. Yeah,
She played it as well. It was a good party.
Susanna was my manager at the time, and you guys really killed it. But you came in, you had the whole get up and everything. I didn't recognize you when you walked in. That was amazing. I
think it was brilliant because they were all 45s as well. So
right.
Just put it on, play the record, get the next one ready, fade them across. Bang,
yeah,
bang,
that was
bang.
that. Did you do that often, or did you just do that for that evening?
Well, actually, for my 60th, I put a band together and we played covers. We did all those songs, but we played them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was a guitar player.
But as a DJ, you haven't really tried to be a DJ yet.
No, I used to do some stuff with Daniel Miller.
Right.
Back in the day. Of course, he went off to do his own. He did quite a lot of DJing.
All right, he's become this new artist, new budding artist.
He's cutting down a little bit, or he has been. Well, he went up before this, but yeah, he went off and did his own thing, and we used to play together back to back a little bit. We used to use loops. Remember that? We used to cut acetates of mute loops, and then we had 4 turntables, and we just used to play the loops on top of each other. So you could have Nick Cave on top of Plastic Man, stuff like this, and Depeche Mode on top of fucking Mode. So we used to do that.
Did you play this out, or was it just for fun?
We played doing that.
Really? Did you have a little tour or something?
We cut about 20 acetates with 8 loops on each side.
It's a serious undertaking.
Yeah, it's expensive. I still got them all somewhere.
Have you?
And of course, the more you use them, the more
right.
Shitty, but sounded more like glitchy type stuff then, you know. It's quite good. But anyway, it was all right. It worked for about, you could do it for about an hour and it'd be sort of entertaining.
So are you keeping them still?
I still got them somewhere, those acetates.
Do you keep a lot of vinyl?
Sorry?
Do you keep vinyl in itself?
No, I got rid of it, most of it. I got rid of all of it when I moved to Berlin, pretty much. Some of it's in my mother's, but I either sold it or gave it away. It was a pain in the ass for me. I didn't need it anymore.
I actually pay for a storage to keep all my vinyl.
Wow, you've got all your vinyl still.
I have, yeah.
Wow.
I wonder why. Because I pay every month to store this stuff. I couldn't. I didn't have any room for it here in the studio anymore, and I had another room in the studio which was dedicated to old vinyl, and I was like, I want to use this for something else. I don't want to just have a room for 10,000 records.
If you want to move somewhere into another country, what are you going to do with it all? It was a pain in the ass. You know, when I moved to Berlin, I was like, I've got all this vinyl now. Oh no, what am I going to do with it all?
Right.
I picked some things I liked, some fun stuff, you know, but it was whatever. I don't miss it at all.
Yeah, I don't miss it. I guess I'm a hoarder. I'm nostalgic about it. I don't know what to do at the point. I mean, I don't want to go through it and start putting it on eBay or a Discogs.
Donate it to a museum or something.
Perhaps. Yeah, I just gotta get up there, put it all in a van or something.
But no, it would be interesting for kids to come and listen to it, you know, or people to listen to it in booths. In the this is the Abe Duke collection. You know, it's like.
First, I have to find a museum that'll actually take the Abe Duke collections. But good idea there. I'll hold on. Let me write down.
Never know.
Yeah. So
I've got to go now. So it's really nice to speak to you. That was really
Thank you so much for sitting down with me and catching up. Really.
Great. I enjoyed it. Thank you. It's really
great. I'll put this together, and it's not much going to happen with it. It's just going to go the way it is, and but I'll let you watch it before anything, just as a formality, and you can approve it or disapprove of it. And if you disapprove, we won't do anything with it.
Put whatever you want. It's fine. I don't think I said anything untowards. I don't think I said anything slanderous. One thing I was going to say, if you do come across something that you think is great, that could be a great writer producer, please put them in touch with me, and you know, we can talk to our American. We have an American company as well that's signing American writers.
All right, I actually have a few people in mind right now.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Especially like, you know, we have people working in the urban scene, the hip hop scene, you know, drill, whatever. You know, we have a lot of producers that work in that area as well, or people are more interested in songwriting, or people interested in top lining with vocals and lyrics and melodies, you know, whatever they're interested in.
Right on. Yeah, I'll actually expect a list, because as I said, I meet a lot of people. I'm lucky. I really do get to meet. You should hire me actually for your company, because I could be a great sub A&R.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Well, I mean, if you can get a couple of ideas over this, that'd be great. I'll get them over to Michelle in LA, see what she thinks, and then she can come back to you.
Right on.
You should be the manager.
Will do.
Right.
All right, Seth. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon again sometime.
Okay, thanks for that. That was great.
All right.
See you.
Cheers.
Cheers.